بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. نويت التعلم التعليم والتذكر التذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we are still busy with our discussion on divorce and those matters related to divorce and how to divorce and what types of divorces fall and which does not fall. Now, in our last class, we discussed that you can suspend your divorce upon the occurrence of something. So potentially a man could say to his wife that if you leave the house, you are divorced. Alright, so maybe there's an argument and the husband doesn't want the wife to leave the house. So he tells his wife, and he intends it as a threat, but he says to his wife, if you leave the house, you are divorced. He uses clear-cut wording. Not if you leave the house, I will divorce you. No, that's a promise to divorce. He says, if you leave the house, you are divorced. If you leave the house, I divorce you. Says it like that, for example. Or if you leave the house, you are divorced. In that case, if she leaves the house, then the divorce falls. As soon as she leaves the house, then divorce, the divorce falls. Now, so we have to be very careful in the wording that we use when we issue a divorce. Now, some have used this. For example, a lady wants doesn't want the husband to marry more than one wife. So generally, we said that sometimes what they do, they have a marital contract before the time, before they get married, and then they have a contract that if the husband marries another wife, right, then he gives her the right. Either he gives her the right to divorce, or he says that if I take another wife, you are divorced. And that happens before the marriage. And we said this will not be valid. Why? Because before the marriage, he doesn't have the right of divorce. He can't enact that wording whilst he does not have the right. He doesn't possess the right to divorce before he's married. He only possesses the right to divorce after he becomes married. He only possesses the right to divorce after he becomes married. So after he becomes married, if he does say the wording, if I marry another wife or I marry a second wife, then you are divorced. He does that after he's married, then that divorce will occur if he is to marry another wife. Then it will be valid. But before the marriage, it will not be valid. Obviously, he cannot be forced to say these words. I can't force the man, put a gun to his head and say you have to say these words. If he says this word under duress while he's forced, then it is not valid. It is not valid. Now, another issue of tafweed al-talaq, where a man gives the right to his wife to divorce, is that valid? Yes, it is valid. He says to his wife, divorce yourself. Divorce yourself. And then she divorces herself. She does so immediately. Then she is divorced. Then she is divorced. And many of our scholars say it has to be immediate, meaning once she is given the right to divorce, once she is given the right to divorce, she must use that right immediately. if she does not use that right immediately, tomorrow she decides that she's going to, act upon that, and she does it the next day, then the divorce does not fall according to the majority of the Shafi'i scholars. Now, so she must do so immediately. She must do so immediately now. So that is what we call a tafweed talaq. But this tafweed talaq, again, when you give the wife the right to divorce herself, that is only valid after the marriage has occurred. You cannot give the right, you cannot give the wife the right to divorce herself before the marriage occurs. Why not? Because again, he does not own the right to, he does not own the right to divorce. He does not have the right to divorce. Only once he gets married now, he has the right to give that divorce now. And as we know, only the husband has the right to give a divorce. A female does not have the right to divorce unless the husband gives her the right to do so. Right? He gives her the right to do so, then she has the right, but she needs to make use of that right immediately. Otherwise, if she wishes to get out of the divorce, out of the marriage, we said she either has to go for fasq, she has to go apply for an annulment by the qadi, by the Muslim judge. She has to apply for an annulment, and the qadi will investigate. And we said the grounds for such an annulment generally it is lack of nafaqah, where the husband is not providing nafaqah, the basic needs of the lady, right? Food, clothing, housing, for example, right? He's not providing the basic needs, the essential needs for a lady. Then she has the right to go to the qadi and apply for an annulment. And there are other reasons that we mentioned at the beginning of the, before you get married, and once you get married and you see he's majnoon, he's insane, or he has leprosy and so forth. We said those are some of the reasons why a lady can apply for an annulment. But the main reason is based on what? Based on lack of nafaqah, based on lack of providing financial maintenance or financial support to the lady. Now, we also mentioned that there are four individuals whom the divorce does not fall. And that is the sabi, the minor, the one is the majnoon, the one who is insane, the one who is sleeping, the person in his sleeps, he sleepwalks and he sleep talks, and he divorces his wife while he is sleeping. Right? We said there that divorce does not fall, even though it will create a lot of problems, but the divorce will not fall. Now, wal mukrah, and the person who is forced. And we gave some conditions last week for this forced. How do we actually consider this person to be forced, right? It must be an actual serious threat where he fears for his life or fears for a limb, the use of a limb. Maybe his hand is going to be cut off. Maybe, sometimes a lady threatens the man with cutting off certain parts, essential parts of the man, right? Is that a threat? It's a valid threat. If he believes that the lady will actually carry out that threat if he doesn't comply, right? If he doesn't comply, if he thinks no, this is just a bluff, there's no way she'll carry it out, or not just his wife, could be any third party that forces him to do so. If he believes that the person will not carry out the threat, then he can't claim to be forced. He cannot claim to be forced now. And another thing, if he can run away, then he also cannot claim to be forced, because he had the option to run away, but he chose not to run away, or he chose not to ask for help. Maybe there are people around him that can help him, that can assist him out of that dangerous situation, but he doesn't call for help, even though there are people that can help him. There's police right by, whatever, and he does. And he knows that if he must call them out, they will assist him, they will protect him. But instead, for opting for that option, he opts to divorce his wife, citing that he was forced. To be going to say, sorry, you were not forced in that case. Why? Because you had other options. You had other options. Another condition our scholars say, if he is given a choice, when it comes to the divorce, and he chooses, and then also we cannot claim to be forced. For example, if he's married to two wives, and a gun is put to his head, and he's told, divorce one of your wives, divorce one of your wives, then he chooses a wife to divorce, then our scholars say that divorce is valid. That divorce is valid. Why? Because a condition for being forced, for a valid forcing, is that there must be no choice. And yeah, in a way, he was given choice, even though he was still forced. But I say because of the fact that he was given a choice, that that divorce will still fall. And we said here that this type of forcing is also through maybe a strike. A person fears that the person is going to hit him, a severe strike, or even imprisonment. We say that is a valid forcing, or even a fear of loss of wealth. Right? The person says that if you don't divorce your wife, we're going to break your car. We're going to hit in the windows of your car, for example. Right? So that's a loss of wealth. He fears for his wealth. That is a valid forcing. That is a valid forcing. And if he divorces his wife under that situation, we will say that the divorce does not fall. Now, we move on, inshallah. The next topic is another important topic, and that is the topic of taking your wife back after divorce. Taking your wife back after divorce. Is this permissible? Yes, it is permissible. As it is mentioned in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبِعُولَتُهُنَّ أَحَقُّ بِرَدِّهِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ إِنْ أَرَادُوا إِصْلَاحًا. That the husbands are more entitled in taking them back, in returning them to the marriage, in aradu islaha, if they wish to reconcile. So yeah, our scholars understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the husbands are more entitled, meaning he has the actual right to take his wife back. And in another narration, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, after he divorced one of his wives, Hafsa radiallahu anha, the daughter of Umar radiallahu anhu, the great Sahabi Umar radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married his daughter, Hafsa radiallahu anha. She is of the Ummahatul Mu'mineen. She is of the mothers of the believers. Now, so there was a time where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave Hafsa radiallahu anha a divorce. So what happened was Jibreel alayhi salam, the Prophet says, Atani Jibreel, that Jibreel alayhi salam came to me. فقال لي, and Jibreel alayhi salam said to me, Ya Muhammad, راجع Hafsa. Jibreel alayhi salam said to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, take Hafsa back. فإنها صوامة قوامة وإنها زوجتك في الجنة. That Hafsa radiallahu anha, she is sawwamah. She is somebody who constantly fasts. She regularly fasts, subhanallah. Qawwamah, she is somebody who stands up regularly in the night prayer, standing up worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in prayer. وَإِنَّهَا زَوْجَتُكَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ, and she will be your wife in Jannah, subhanallah. So this is one of the virtues of Hafsa radiallahu anha. This is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam take Hafsa radiallahu anha back into the marriage. Now, so it's clear that we learn from the institution of taking one's wife back, that it is permissible. Now, obviously there are conditions that allows one to be able to take the wife back. And there are three components, three essential parts of taking one's wife back. You need the husband, you need the wife, and you need the formula. The way that you are going to take your wife. What do you do in order to take your wife back? So in terms of the husband, one of the conditions for the husband is that he must be able to get married by himself. He must be competent enough to be able to get married by himself, meaning he does not need a wali, for example, to get married. Certain people need a wali to get married, like a minor. If you have a young boy that's not yet mukallaf and he wishes to get married, for example, can he get married by himself? No. His wali needs to marry him off. So that's a case where even a male needs a wali if he is a if he's a minor, he needs a guardian, a legal guardian to say, somebody who has legal authority over him to be able to get married now. So therefore, a minor cannot take his wife back. A minor cannot take his wife back. Why? Because he does not even have the ability to get married by himself. Now, similarly, a majnoon, a person who is insane. So the person perhaps got married while he was not insane. Why? Because the insane person cannot get married by himself. He also requires a wali, even if he be a male. His wali needs to marry him off while he is insane. Now, he has a loss of aql. His intellect is not 100% there. Yeah. So he needs a wali to get married. So perhaps he got married. Perhaps he even got married while he was sane. Then he divorced his wife while he was sane. Because again, to divorce your wife, you need to be sane. You cannot be insane, as we just mentioned. You cannot be insane and divorce your wife. The divorce will not fall. So he was sane when he divorced his wife. After he divorced his wife, he now becomes insane. Can he take his wife back? No, he cannot take his wife back while he is insane now. Because why? He does not have the ability to get married by himself. So he needs to be baligh, he needs to have aql, and he needs to be mukhtar. He needs to willingly be able to take his wife back. He cannot be forced. If I again put a gun to his head and say, force him, take your wife back, he cannot take his wife back. While it's not that he cannot, sorry, if he does do so under duress, then it will not be valid. It will not be valid unless he actually intends to take her back. But otherwise, the default, if a gun is put to his head and he says to his wife, I take you back as my wife, it will not be valid unless he intends to do so. Now, then he one of the conditions concerning the sigha, or concerning the formula, is that he should not suspend the taking back of his wife upon the occurrence of anything. He tells his wife, if you make me a cup of tea, I take you back. If you make me a cup of tea, then I take you back. No, it has to be immediate. It has to be immediate that he takes his wife back now. And he can't say, for example, that I take you back for 1 month. I take you back for 1 month. After that month, then again, I no longer take you back. You are divorced. I only take you back for 1 month. No, that's not going to be valid. Why? Because even when you get married, you cannot put a time to it. You cannot put a time. I get married to a lady, and you say we are married. I marry you on the condition that we're only married for 2 years, for example. Is that marriage valid? No, that marriage is not valid. You cannot put a time to marriage, because the default in marriage is that it is still divorce or till one of them dies. It is still divorce or till one of the parties die. You cannot contractually limit the duration of a marriage. So similarly, when a man takes his wife back, he cannot put a time limit to it. He cannot put a time limit to it. And an important consideration when taking your wife back, in terms of how to take your wife back, is that it must be done via words, basically. It cannot be done via action. Meaning, if a man sleeps with his wife, in the Shafi'i madhab, that's not how you take your wife back. If a man sleeps with his wife while she's under iddah, it is haram for him. It is haram. Our scholars say, yes, it's not considered zina necessarily. It is not zina. Why? Because there is shubha, there is some doubt. We can only consider something zina when it is 100% haram. There is no doubt about it. There is no confusion or anything like that. It must be 100% this is haram, then only it's considered zina. Here in the Shafi'i madhab, the Shafi'i say it is haram. But because there's still, this, like when a person issues one divorce or two divorces, in a way they are still married. How are they still married? He must still provide nafaqah, for example, to his wife. He must still provide a roof over the head of his wife, for example. He must still provide clothing for his wife. Alright? If he passes away or if she passes away during that period, then there is inheritance between them, subhanAllah. So in one aspect, they are still married. In another aspect, they are not married. In what aspect are they not married? In terms of intimacy. So during the iddah period, there should be hijab. They cannot be alone in a confined space. Right? They can't view each other's auras and so forth. Right? So imagine if that is haram, what's still about sleeping together? That is going to be haram. But it will not be considered zina such that we can lash them, or they should be they should get the punishment of adultery. No, the punishment of adultery does not apply to them, and the punishment for fornication also does not apply to them. However, what they're doing is still haram. It is still haram, and therefore, generally, when a couple gets divorced, the husband should actually move out. The husband should move out, and he should not stay with his wife while she is under iddah. It is haram. Now, however, in the Hanafi madhab, they have this thing whereby if a man sleeps with his wife during the iddah, then she is taken back. Then she is taken back. That is the Hanafi madhab. In the Shafi'i madhab, we're going to say no. We're going to say no. That is not a valid raj'ah. That is not a valid way to take your wife back. You need to take your wife back via saying to her, I take you back as my wife. Or I take you back into this marriage, for example. Or the Arabic word is raja'tuki. Raja'tuki. Or what's the other one? Amsastuki. Now, either one of these words. The general word is raja'tuki. Raja'tuki. But if you say it in English, I take you back as my wife, preferably with those words. If you say I take you back, then you need to intend the taking back as your wife. So when it comes to taking back, there is also clear wording and there is non-clear wording. If you use clear wording, then it does not require an intention, like raja'tuki. That does not require an intention. Automatically, she will be taken back as your wife. But if he says to his wife, for example, return to me. Return to me. That is not clear that you mean return to me into this marriage. It could mean something else. It could mean something else. So if a man says to his wife, return to me, then a condition is that he must intend her coming back into the marriage in order for it to be valid for him to take his wife back. Now, in terms of the lady, what are the conditions to take the lady back? Firstly, the lady must be his wife. I cannot take a lady back who's not my wife. I cannot take a lady back who is not my wife. Another condition is that lady must have been somebody whom you have had intercourse with. If I marry a lady and then I divorce her, but I've never had intercourse with her, then I cannot take her back. Why can I not take her back? Because if I divorce her and I've never been intimate with her, we've never consummated the marriage, and I divorce her, then there's no iddah. Then there is no iddah. So if there's no iddah, mean automatically now we are completely separated. If I wish to get back together with her, I have to remarry her with a new marital contract. I cannot just say the words, I take you back. No. Then she must be somebody who's halal still for you to marry her. She must be somebody who is halal for you to be with. For example, if she becomes murtad wal billah, I divorce her. And after I divorce her, she becomes murtad. Now from the Shafi'i madhab, we're still going to consider during that period like to be under iddah. She's still going to be under iddah, because she could still come back to Islam. And if she comes back to Islam, that iddah continues. That iddah continues until I take her back again. But let's say now she becomes murtad. Can I tell her, raja'tuki, can I tell her, I take you back as my wife? No, it's not going to be valid. It is not going to be valid. Why? Because you cannot marry a murtad in the first place. If you cannot marry a murtad, a female who is, who, even if she became Christian or she became Jew, even if she converted to Judaism or Christianity, a murtad you can never ever marry. There is no condition, not any madhab, not any school of thought allows a man to marry a murtad, to marry a murtad now. So she cannot. So if she becomes murtad, he cannot take her back now. Then she must have been somebody who was divorced for free. She was divorced for free. What does it mean? Meaning she did not pay for a divorce. Because if she had to pay for a divorce, then she would be under iddah. But that's what we call a khul'ah. Khul'ah. You cannot take your wife back during the iddah of a khul'ah if she had paid for a divorce. Because then what's the use she paid for a divorce? Right? If it's you have now sole ability, complete right to take her back without her consent. No. So if she paid for a divorce, the man does not have the right to take her back during the iddah. And similarly, if she got a fasq, an annulment, then also the husband cannot take his wife back during the iddah. If he wishes to get back together with her, he has to remarry her. A new act, new dowry, a new dowry. He cannot just take her back now. So that's the one thing. And the lady still has to be under iddah. Once the iddah expires, can the husband still take his wife back? Just with the words, I take you back as my wife? No, we cannot take her back. He can only do so during the iddah period. During the iddah period now. And that is if he gave one divorce or two divorces. If he gave three divorces also, during the iddah, he cannot take her back. He cannot take her back. So he only has two chances. And once he takes her back, does his counter reset? No, his counter does not reset. So he divorced his wife once, and then he took her back once. Then he divorced her again, second time, and then he took his wife back again for the second time. Then he divorced his wife for a third time. Can he take her back? No, he cannot take her. He cannot take her back. He cannot take her back into the marriage now. So we said he can only take her back during the iddah. If the iddah expires and he didn't take her back, then she only becomes halal for him with a new nikah, with a new aqd now. And she returns to the marriage with what remains of divorces. But if he divorced her 3 times, لم تحل له إلا بعد وجود 5 شرائط. They only become halal for each other after 5 things occur, with 5 conditions. So if a man wishes, he divorced his wife 3 times, and they have regret. He has regret, and this happens. We think, how can a man be so stupid? All right, he just acts on his emotions, and he divorces, and he gives all 3 divorces. Many times he does this 3 times, and we think sometimes, no, that will never happen to us. But there's so many cases, subhanallah, so many cases that comes to the imam, that comes to the MJC, where a man divorced his wife 3 times. Sometimes the lady is the one who insisted. She wanted all 3 divorces. Then she is the first one to come to the imam and ask the imam, is there no way we can get back together? And she was so insistent, like she could not go on at all. But then she is the first one sometimes, more not sometimes, many times, to come back to the imam. And she was the one who insisted. Other times, it is the husband who, out of anger, emotion, he gave all 3 divorces. and now he comes back to the Imam. Is there no way we can get back together? Him and the wife. He and the wife comes to the Imam. Or he and the wife comes to the MJC and they ask, is there no way we can get back together? But now they come to the Imam where perhaps in the process, while they were, before they issued the first divorce already, you should have perhaps first consulted the Imam. You should have first gone to the Imam, explained to the Imam the situation. Perhaps maybe he's thinking irrationally, right? And if he wishes to give a divorce, how should he go about giving the divorce? Should have first consulted the Imam. If he had done so, he wouldn't have found himself in this problem now where he gave all 3 divorces and now he wants to get back together, but now he can't get back together. Now, so we think this is something that it's not so common. It happens so many times in the community. So many situations like this comes to the Imam, subhanallah. Now, so if a man did issue 3 divorces, whether it be 3 divorces, after each other, or whether it be 3 divorces that were spread out over time, right? If he wishes to get back together with his wife, what are the conditions for that? So the first thing is, if he issued 3 divorces, the lady first has to complete her iddah. She has to first complete her iddah. After completing her iddah, she has to get married to somebody else. And that has to be a valid marriage. She has to get married to somebody else, and that marriage has to be a valid marriage. Now, after getting married to somebody else, not only does she have to get married to somebody else, she has to consummate the marriage with a new husband. Meaning there has to be intercourse. There has to be intercourse. After the intercourse, right, there has to be actual intercourse. Then after the intercourse, then the new husband divorces her. The new husband divorces her. After the husband divorces her, she needs to then also complete out the iddah from that husband. After she completes the iddah with that husband, then the husband now can remarry his previous wife with her consent and with a new mahar. With a new mahar. So all that needs to happen in order for the wife to become halal for him. This is, this is a real barrier, and this should make us think thrice, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times before we issue that divorce. Why? Because who will be okay? If a man wishes to get back to, he won't think, no, it's fine, my wife can just get married to somebody else, consummate the marriage, and then I'll get married to her again. No man will find it in himself to be able to plan this. If he's a real man and somebody who has this ghayrah, this protective jealousy over his wife, and he regrets now and he wants to get back together with his wife, he will never find it okay to just arrange with somebody, you marry my wife, consummate the marriage, then you divorce her, then I will get married to her after that. No man will be able to, he won't be able to accept that. So he will rather, if he must know this, he will rather say, no, that's fine, you go your way and I go my way, even though you might be hurting. Right? So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places this in front of us, this law, so that we do not play with his words of divorce. And we realize the seriousness. And don't think that you won't be of those who have regret. All those people who gave the 3 divorces, they all thought that is 100%, that is what they want. They want the divorce, and there's no way they're going to regret. Then just a day, 2 days, 3 days later, 4 days later, then they have that regret, subhanallah, and then they wish to get back together with the previous wives. Now, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant contentment in our marriages. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mend those marriages, especially where the husband and wife are finding difficulties in the marriage. Now, there's another secondary discussion that our author brings here, or our commentator brings, and this is the issue of mu'asharatul azwaj, living together with your spouse who is under iddah, and such a iddah in which the husband can take his wife back. So first of all, we said that it is not permissible for a man and a lady, after the husband issues the first divorce or the second divorce or even the third divorce, it is not permissible for the husband, for the man and husband, to continue living together like how they used to live when they were married. They cannot live in the same house if that means that living in the same house means that there's going to be times where they are going to be alone in a confined space. All right? However, now, so if it means if they're staying in the same house and they're going to be alone in that house, right? Then it is haram. Then it is haram. And not only is it haram, but what happens is that the iddah of the lady becomes suspended. What do I mean by suspended? Do I mean that she's no longer under iddah? No. She's still under iddah. But what happens is the time of the iddah does not run. Remember, the iddah of a lady is 3 months if she is somebody who doesn't experience hayd, or the iddah of the lady is, for somebody who experiences hayd, it is 3 clean periods. 3 clean periods. So the time generally starts from the date of divorce. And then we start counting the clean period, or we start counting the 3 months. But if husband and wife continue living together, then the wife is under iddah. However, we don't start counting the time yet. The time doesn't start. When does this time start? The time starts when the husband moves out. The time starts when the husband moves out. And then only the time starts. Or the iddah does expire if the wife gives birth. If the wife gives birth, even though they are still staying together, but the wife gave birth to their child, then the iddah expires. But if she doesn't give birth and the husband doesn't move out, then the iddah is suspended until he moves out, and then only we start counting the time. So what happens during this? So what happens is, let's use the example of the 3 months. A lady's iddah, maybe she is 60 years old, and the husband at this age now, he divorces his wife. But after divorcing his wife, he still stays with his wife in the same house, and now they still live in the same house. So what happens now is the iddah become suspended. And let's say now he stays in the house with her for 3 months. And after 3 months, he only moves out, or she moves out. So what happens is now, does the lady's iddah expire? No. Her iddah now, in terms of time, we only start counting the time now. So that means she will now be under iddah for how many months in total? 6 months. She will be under iddah. Now, however, if the husband wishes to take his wife back before the 6 months expires, and he says to his wife, I take you back as my wife, is that valid? Our scholars say no, it is not valid. He can only take his wife back during the initial 3-month period. He can only take his wife back during the initial 3-month period. Once the 3 months expires, even though now he only moved out after 3 months, and now the time starts, after he moves out, he can no longer take her back. Why? Because he can only take her back in the initial iddah period, not in the extended period of the iddah. So here we have what we call an extended iddah period, right? In the extended iddah period, we said that if he tries to take her back, he cannot take her back. But if he divorces her in the extended iddah period, does the divorce fall? Our scholars say yes, the divorce falls. Why does the divorce fall? As a punishment towards him. Why? Because he's not supposed to be staying with his wife during the iddah period. He's not supposed to be staying with his wife. So now he doesn't get the benefits of the iddah, but all the responsibilities of the iddah now become upon him. Meaning he still has to make nafaqah during the 6 months. The entire 6 months of iddah, he must make nafaqah. The entire 6 months of the iddah, he must provide clothing if there's a need for clothing. During that 6 months, he must provide sukna, he must provide a roof over the head of the lady. Right? But can he take her back in the extended iddah period? No. In the initial iddah period, the 3 months, yes, he can. But in the extended 3 months, he cannot take her, he cannot take her back. What happens if one of them passes during the extended iddah period? We said that in the normal iddah period, if husband or wife passes, then there is inheritance between them. The wife will inherit from the husband, or the husband will inherit from the wife during the initial iddah period, if it's a iddah period where the husband can take his wife back, meaning only 1 divorces or 2 divorces. But now, if the iddah was extended on account of staying together, husband and wife still staying together, then during the extended iddah period, there is no, and one of them passes away during the extended iddah period, there is no inheritance between them. There is no inheritance between them now. So these are some of the laws when it comes to after a man divorces his wife. These are just some of the laws now. Are there any questions before we move on? The next discussion, Isha is 8 minutes past. The adhan for Isha, 8 minutes past. The next discussion, short discussion, is this discussion on ila, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, لِلَّذِينَ يُؤْلُونَ مِن نِّسَائِهِمْ تَرَبُّصُ أَرْبَعَةِ أَشْهُرٍ فَإِنْ فَاءُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. That for those who are made ila of their wives. What is ila? Ila is when a man takes an oath not to have intercourse with his wife for more than 4 months. For more than 4 months. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about such a person, when he took an oath not to sleep with his wife for a duration of more than 4 months, such a person, he has the right, لِلَّذِينَ يُؤْلُونَ مِن تَرَبُّصُ أَرْبَعَةِ أَشْهُرٍ. He has the right to wait 4 months. And after that 4 months, either he takes his wife back, either he returns to his wife. How does he return to wife? By sleeping with her. Or what does he have to do? He has to divorce her. So this is the laws of ila. So our scholars explain that if a man said to his wife, for example, Wallahi, I will never sleep with you again. So when you say I will never sleep with you again, that's more than 4 months, definitely. All right? Or he says to his wife, Wallahi, I will not sleep with you for 5 months. So 5 months is more than 4 months. What happens now? So now that is what we call a yameen. It is an oath. And the oath is something which is binding. So now, what is the right of the wife now? Because the wife, she is harmed by these words. And this is haram for a man to do. Right? It's haram for a man to do. Because why? It entails harming the wife. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَعْشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live together with them in a good way. So this is harm, and harming your wife is haram. But he did this. He took an oath not to sleep with his wife for 5 months, for example, or more than 4 months. So now scholars say that the lady has the right, she has to have sabr for 4 months. Meaning she cannot demand. She can ask the husband, break your oath and sleep with me again. She can ask, but she cannot demand. She doesn't have the right to demand. So 4 months passes. After 4 months passed, if the husband didn't yet break his oath, she now has the right to request him. Not just to request, to demand. She has the right to demand that he either returns to her by having intercourse with her, or he must divorce her. And she has the right to go to the qadi to force the husband to make this choice. Because why? For more than 4 months, our scholars say, you are harming the lady, and a lady generally doesn't have sabr for more than 4 months, and it means that she doesn't have sabr. She's perhaps going to resort to haram. She's perhaps going to resort to haram. And Allah, what is one of the objectives of marriage is to fulfill your need in a halal way. But now the husband took an oath not to sleep with his wife. So how is she able now to fulfill her need? Now, so in this case, she can go to the Qadi. The Qadi will call the husband in, and the Qadi will command him, take your wife back. And if he takes his wife back during that period that he swore not to take his wife back, to sleep with his wife, if he sleeps with her, he needs to pay the kafara. He needs to pay an expiation. The expiation of breaking one's oath, which is either, if I remember correctly, freeing a slave or feeding 10 people or clothing 10 people. And if you can't do any of those things, then fasting for 3 days. Now, so he has to sleep with his wife and pay the kafara. If he refuses to go back to his wife and sleep with his wife, then he will be commanded to divorce his wife. Wajib. It now becomes wajib for him to divorce. And if he still refuses to divorce his wife, because he only has one of two options, either go back to your wife and sleep with her, or divorce. He refused to go back to his wife, and now he refused to divorce. What's the Qadi going to do? He is going to divorce the wife on behalf of the husband. The Qadi is going to issue the divorce, and he has the right to do so. He has the right to do so, because the husband cannot deny both. Because why? That is harm, and it goes against the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yeah, this is where sometimes I think people get confused. Many people think that if a man does not sleep with his wife for more than 4 months, it's an automatic divorce. You get these notions. There's no such thing as an automatic divorce. That does not exist within the Sharia. Only way a divorce falls if a man says the words, I divorce you, if he gives another person the right to divorce on his behalf. He makes somebody an agent to divorce on his behalf. Or the Qadi divorces on behalf of the husband. That's the only way you get a divorce. There is no such thing that the husband moves out. He moves to another country. 2 years go by. Is that an automatic divorce? No, it's not automatic divorce. The lady must know that the husband actually issued the divorce, or he had passed away, for example. But if he did not issue a divorce, and she did not get an annulment by a Qadi, and the husband did not die, and there's no proof that the husband died or anything like that, then the ruling is that they are still married. No matter how many years pass by. No matter how many years pass by. So this is one of the misconceptions that some people have, that there is such a thing as an automatic divorce after a period of time where the husband and the wife were not intimate with one another. No. Okay. So that is the end of the discussion of ila. There's no need to go into that much detail because perhaps it does not occur that often within our community. Next week, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll mention another concept of dhihar, where a man says to his wife, you are to me like my mother. All right. And beyond that, we will also discuss accusing one's wife of zina, and we will discuss nafyul walad, where a man basically negates the child if he knows that the child that his wife gave birth to is not his child. What is the processes that goes with that, and so forth. We will discuss that next week بإذن تعالى. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.